Hey there, I'm your host, Jeremy Burke. Marvel Universe has always created supervillains just to balance out the formidable superheroes of all time. But one of the best Marvel villains ever created was Gorgon, who was a straight goon. The guy who was responsible for Wolverine's death. Gorgon, or Tomi Shishido, is a supervillain with a long list of abilities. I will be talking about the might of Gorgon in this video, who was created by Mark Millar and John Romita Jr., and made his first appearance in Wolverine Volume 3, issue number 20, in December 2004. Featuring as the main adversary of the arcs Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Enemies of the State, Tomi Shishido is his real name, and he measures 6 foot 4 inches tall, weighs 215 pounds, and has jet black hair. He possesses glowing emerald eyes with no irises or pupils. Gorgon possesses a wide range of skills, some of which are innate mutant abilities, and others that he acquired mystically soon after being resurrected from death. Gorgon is one of the most fearsome martial artists in the Marvel Universe, yet he doesn't get practically as much attention as he deserves. Let us get to know more about this character in depth and explore his capabilities in detail. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Becoming of Gorgon. Tomi Shishido is a strong mutant who leads the radical mutant group Dawn of the White Light. He's a member of the Hand of Hydra and had near superhuman levels of intelligence as a toddler. He said his first speech at the age of 2 weeks. He was able to walk at the age of 3 months. He was able to read and write by the time he was 1. He was recognized among the top 5 painters in contemporary Japan at the age of 4. He tried suicide for the first time at age 6 and had already written his first opera. He discovered his condition as a mutant with the capacity to turn individuals he makes eye contact with into stone when he was 13 years old. As a result, he was called the Gorgon by the Japanese media. He learned to fight and function in daily life while blindfolded to cope with his lethal talents due to low-level telepathic powers. He also invented a mathematical formula at this age that demonstrated the existence of God without a doubt. This later experience seems to have a profound impact on Shishido, who came to feel that if God existed, man could only be his slave, causing him to require a strong loathing for the very notion of God. The Gorgon created the Dawn of the White Light, a mutant murder cult, when he was a youngster and, for 4 years, terrorized Japan. He murdered his family and sole true friend when he was 18 to attract the attention of the Hand, an ancient ninja clan. He was scared and kept the former in his Kobe apartment. He was soon visited by the Kraken, a renowned Hydra agent. He gave the God-Killer sword to the young Gorgon, a relic that would grant him his destiny. When Zeus and Amatsu, respective Mikaboshi's pantheons of deities, the Olympians and the Amatsu Kami, went to battle, the God-Killer was one of 2 blades fashioned at their request. This gift granted the Gorgon the ability to slay the one thing he despised the most, gods. The Gorgon, seeking darker and more important things than the dawn, discovered the Hand Sanctuary in the rural parts of Japan, and slew all its guards while blindfolded to show off his talents. There's a significant dialogue where the Hand asks the Gorgon whether this is how he wanted to impress him by killing all the guards, to which the Gorgon responds, "I am worthy of 1,000 of your guards, 1,000,000 even." After that, the Gorgon vowed his devotion to the Hand's Jonin. When the Gorgon's devotion was called into doubt, he stabbed himself with his sword and asked to be revived with his last breath. Impressed by his commitment, the Hand raised the Gorgon from the dead and made him one of their greatest fighters. He became the High Priest of the Hand and controlled the clan within a year. He allied with Hydra not long after. Some major events involving the Gorgon. After the major feat performed at the Hand Sanctuary, the Gorgon established an alliance with Hydra. That is how his relationship with Elizabeth von Strucker was formed, who was the wife of the Hydra leader, Baron Strucker. The Gorgon had the Hand abduct the son of Ichiro Yashida, Wolverine's dead fiancé, Mariko Yashida, falsely stating he wanted to testify himself against the warrior Wolverine. Wolverine met his captors in Japan only to discover that it was all a setup. He wiped off all Hand fighters, leaving just the Gorgon. Wolverine was rendered unconscious after being pierced in the chest by the Gorgon, who then claimed that the boy had already been killed. The Gorgon brainwashed Wolverine and released his weakened body in South America, with the aid of Baron Strucker for his corpse to be revived by S.H.I.E.L.D. Under the influence of the brainwashing, Wolverine launches a series of terrorist assaults, killing dozens of uniformed heroes and hundreds of S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives, as well as the X-Man Northstar. Even though Wolverine is fully liberated from their control, he infiltrates the Baxter Building and steals from Reed Richards technology blueprints that are incredibly beneficial to Hydra. After S.H.I.E.L.D. executes an attack that destroys Nick Fury's safe home and kills Elizabeth von Strucker, the Gorgon attempts to murder him. Before he can complete the mission, Wolverine intercepts him. The two fight mercilessly, inflicting horrific injuries on one another. When the Gorgon gains the upper hand and attempts to turn Wolverine into stone with his mutant power, Wolverine pulls out his claws at the very last moment, allowing the Gorgon to see his own reflection in the claws. As a consequence, Gorgon's strength is returned to him. Wolverine shatters his body once Gorgon is transformed into stone. Baron von Strucker orders the High Priest to use the last stone bits to revive the Gorgon, whom he wishes to be the final member of his new governing council after Hydra's commanders attack the second Twilight Dawn. When Hydra takes over an ex-S.H.I.E.L.D. confinement facility named Red Worm, and the squad heads there on a rescue mission, Gorgon runs across the Secret Warriors team that Nick Fury put together. When the squad realizes Gorgon is about to execute his hostages, they decide to attack the Hydra headquarters. When Gorgon confronts Hellfire, the latter encounters difficulties in the fight, prompting Yo-Yo to offer assistance. On the other hand, Gorgon uses the Godkiller sword to sever Yo-Yo's forearms with a speed that astounds everyone in the combat. Stonewall faces the Gorgon after the team invades one of Hydra's bases because of what he did to Yo-Yo. Gorgon cuts at Stonewall's body, but the latter finally overcomes him by getting stronger and utilizing it. He is subsequently shown with the rest of Hydra's Supreme Council, where he expresses doubts about Nick Fury's capacity to represent a significant danger to them. Years later, it was discovered that the Kraken had given Tomi the Godkiller sword at his house in Kobe, Japan. When Tomi inquired as to why he'd been given such a costly item, the Kraken said, "Who am I to deny a man his destiny?" and then walked away. Tomi's determination to prove his greatness by slaying a deity in combat has been apparent from his boyhood. As Fury's crew raids the Hydra headquarters, Gorgon is pitted against Phobos, son of Ares, and god of terror. Phobos' blade, Grasscutter, smashes Gorgon's Godkiller after a fierce struggle. Phobos looks to have prevailed, but Tomi kills him with one of his shattered sword parts, completing his pledge to one day murder a deity. Gorgon grabs Grasscutter as a spoil of war after the battle. Norman Osborn, or the Hammer, approaches the Gorgon many years later, seeking Hydra assistance in forming a new Dark Avengers squad to avenge his failure during the Siege of Asgard. When Shishido asks Osborn which Avenger character he should play, he says, "I think it's clear, Gorgon, that you're going to be whoever you want to be. The question is, who do you want to stick it to the most?" As a result, Tomi decides to play Wolverine to avenge his humiliation at Logan's hands. Tomi subsequently became the leader of his sect of the Hand inside the East Asia branch of their organization, and finally took control of Madripoor. After he wreaked havoc on the lawless island continent, a new Avenger squad was dispatched to examine the situation and report back to base. Tomi had just finished an old rite confined to the Hand lore, a song about a humble little island shunned by many, rests upon the back of a dragon, just as some of their members were reacquainting themselves with the hired workers. After wreaking havoc in Madripoor, the Hand and Gorgon, who had been reappointed as their leader, utilized the ceremony to reawaken a dragon. And guess what? The island rested on that dragon's head. Shang-Chi attempted but failed to oppose him. The dragon then flew to Hong Kong, where it was met with resistance by the Ascendants. Shang-Chi transformed into a giant and fought the dragon using Pym particles, but not before ripping Gorgon's base from Madripoor and hurling it many kilometers away. The Orphans of X used the Hand's forces to battle Muramasa and his people to capture Honey Badger and Daken, which angered Gorgon. Muramasa persuaded him to supply Laura and Gabby with conveyance so they could hunt down Daken, who allowed himself to be kidnapped after embedding Megan Kinney's phone inside him to function as a tracker, as well as the rest of the orphans when he arrived. What makes Gorgon so deadly? There are a lot of solid moments where the Gorgon could demonstrate his skills and powers effortlessly, and all of us fans have been rendered speechless every time he pulled a move like that. For instance, when he catches the sword of Elektra, he bites it into 2 halves and says, "But time is running out." He also goes on to kick a tree limb off the ground, that too, while tackling a group of ninjas, and in turn, creating after images. His moments with Shang-Chi have always been too entertaining. For instance, when he steamrolls Shang-Chi or tosses Shang-Chi up into a roof. The Gorgon is so full of might that he still does not give up despite being stabbed by Elektra and Wolverine. He could read Elektra's mind and have telepathic conversations with Norman Osborn. Let's talk about his powers and abilities in a little more detail. We all know that Tomi Shishido is a strong mutant with a variety of natural and enchanted superhuman talents that enable him to fight and beat experienced assassins like Elektra, as well as withstand several attacks from ferocious mutants like Wolverine. Shishido's main mutant power is the ability to turn everyone who looks at him into stone. He initially demonstrated this skill by killing his own family, showing the Hand that he was prepared to sacrifice everything for their glory. His gaze did not fall on Phobos, probably due to the latter's divine status. On the other hand, Tomi was unaffected by Phobos' terror stare, since he declared that he was incapable of experiencing fear. The Gorgon also has a moderate level of telepathy, which he utilizes to read people's minds and forecast combat actions. Tomi can also sense and interpret the emotions of those around him. When he used his telepathy to find Elektra had been stealing from the Vatican, he could extract memories from her mind as well. Shishido is likewise a polymathic genius who has excelled in a multitude of professions. He was gifted with near superhuman intellect as a youngster. He demonstrated the capacity to rapidly recover from a close-range RPG explosion and kept fighting to the best of his ability. Even when Wolverine was slashing and pulling chunks of skin off of him, the Gorgon could move out and destroy him easily because of the Hand's renewal. Gorgon now has a slew of new talents and upgrades to his previous ones. Thanks to his demise and resurrections at the hand of a specific ninja cult, Gorgon's strengths allow him to bench press 1 or more tons at his peak, classified as a Class 2 on the strength scale. He's fast enough to outrun Wolverine's heightened senses, going at speeds of 111 to 115 miles per hour over lengthy strides, and probably faster in short spurts. Gorgon's musculature creates lesser tiredness poisons during physical exercise than an average human's muscle. He can keep going for at least 24 hours before the tiredness toxin starts to affect him. Gorgon has greatly enhanced his hearing and other abilities as a result of spending most of his life with his eyes shut. With razor-sharp response times, he can avoid bullets or deflect them with his swords with great ease. Even with his eyes hampered by scorching ashes, he was able to battle in utter darkness. He has superhuman reflexes. Due to superhuman durability and agility, Gorgon's bodily tissues are significantly strengthened and unmatched by even the most potent human specimens. He can endure a bomb blowing up in his face, several stabs from Wolverine's indestructible claws, and many chi-enhanced attacks from Shang-Chi, amongst other things. He physically outperforms the best human athlete in terms of coordination, balance, agility, and bodily mobility. Tomi frequently used elemental Japanese steel swords or a katana in his criminal endeavors. He would use them to a fantastic effect, since he was a superb swordsman. The Gorgon used to wield the God Killer, a terrible sword capable of inflicting fatal wounds on mythological beings and gods. God Killer's opponent, Grasscutter, broke him during his last battle with Phobos. Gorgon claimed Grasscutter, or the Kusanagi, for himself after conquering and murdering the God of Terror. He wields claws identical to Wolverine's as a member of Norman Osborn's Dark Avengers. Their makeup is unknown. Tomi has access to a variety of personal instantaneous teleportation technologies as the CEO of several highly sophisticated companies such as Hydra. The mighty Gorgon and his prowess. Tomi Shishido is one of Marvel Earth's most formidable fighters, having defeated both Elektra and Wolverine at the same time. Despite having the advantage of preparation and a surprise strike, his physical abilities include superhuman speed and stealth, to the point that Wolverine couldn't detect him. He was so competent that he could fight and defeat Phobos, the god of terror, bragging about his ability to slay a god in single combat. The Gorgon endured multiple punches during a confrontation with Shang-Chi, before quickly counterattacking and severely hurting the Master of Kung Fu. With his weapon, he has deflected and chopped apart bullets, as well as chopped off the hands of the speedy slingshot, all while fighting 3 other opponents. Gorgon has a bizarre origin story. and is an absolute psychopath who just wanted to murder a god one day. Gorgon has done some horrific things to Wolverine, and he has truly broken him. He is one of Marvel's most beloved villains and is vastly underappreciated. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!